I quite like Robert Heinlein's 1959 Starship Troopers, alongside Paul Verhoeven's 98 film. They have their fans and detractors, alongside terrible sequels, a decent TV series, and a strange anime, but a real lack of video games besides the terrible 2005 first-person shooter. There has been titles inspired from both works of mixed quality, and one of the early attempts was 1998's Outwars, by those wacky Mormons in Utah, who also made the Twisted Metal games. It predates the movie, but it definitely wears the book's influences on its sleeve, with you playing as a jump jet equipped space marine fighting off hordes of aliens in massive levels. Ironically enough, whilst playing pretty well with a very adjustable control scheme and decent production values, it's been totally forgotten, meaning it's time to go back and check it out. Before starting out, you can choose the gender of your character, and while they don't have any particular traits, the different one-liners and occasional dialogue is pretty cool to hear. You can map the controls to where aiming is done via the mouse and use the WSAD keys to strafe, making it play like contemporary third-person shooters, so there's little mental adjustment. The initial levels have you escaping from a surprise attack by the semi-biomechanical alien race called the Hydrons. You quickly enlist into the Marine Jump Corps and make a fighting retreat against the Hydrons before you can mount a proper counterattack. Mission briefings and cutscenes are shown through a number of FMVs, which, while looking pretty goofy, are decently performed. The objective list goes through each step of the mission, and if you fail, the game basically tells you the recommended strategy, which seems pretty casual. From the briefing screen, you can pick out your loadout of suit type, weapons, and teammates. The different suits change your armor value, as well as the number of weapons equipable. Lighter suits allow faster movement and longer use of the jump jets. You rarely get more than one teammate per mission, and it functions a bit like in Terra Nova or MechWarrior, where they have different character personalities, but they play the same. Ordering them around is simple, and besides health, they don't seem to have any item or jetpack restrictions. Levels offer a nice mixture of search and destroy tasks, defending allies, clearing out enemies, and wide exploration. They're all very linear and don't throw many curveballs besides a couple of boss fights. Generally though, the variety of environments, be it canyons, mines, or ship interiors, keeps the game from becoming boring across its 25 levels. Admittedly, the game does reuse some areas of different enemies, but the challenges gradually escalate. Controlling Marine is simple and fun thanks to the jetpack. You have different camera options that can help in cramped or wider environments. Because of the game's engine and glitchiness, aiming is a bit spotty as you often hit the sides of walls when trying to fire over cover. On the other hand, you can hit enemies who are behind objects as they haven't properly rendered in. Gaining the hang of flying and dealing death from above is pretty crucial to survive Outwars' barrages of enemy attacks that can cleave through your health. There's a decent draw distance that allows you to pick off enemies, which is very useful when they rarely move or take cover. Hydrons are pretty neat enemies though. Their biomechanical appearance reminds me of Quake 2's Strogg mixed with arachnids. They also sound pretty scary, especially whilst on your own. After the training sections, the game moves pretty quickly with your commander directing you to take out Hydron forces and secure research centers. This is also when you start noticing Outwars' difficulty, which fluctuates from pushover easy to replaying the same fight a dozen times. You don't have many effective weapons to deal with the waves of enemies thrown your way. Moreover, ammunition is very limited throughout Outwars. Health and armor pickups can be found occasionally, but ammunition is very dependent on the type: grenades, missiles, ballistics, and mines. You don't get a nice fat supply stack. You do have a recharging rifle, but it's far too weak and slow for tougher opponents, especially when on a timer. The occasional scripted sections can be painfully laborious to get through as you zigzag for 10 minutes before a pack of Hydrons ace you with homing attacks. It's actually best to avoid fights altogether as you don't receive anything from them like experience or cash. Having upgrades you can invest into is sorely missed. The game then switches gears to have you investigate an overrun mining colony which is made downright chilling by the lack of survivors and silent tunnel networks. This is also when you get much more vertical missions with you demoing enemy silos and traversing massive cave networks. Outwars is admittedly low detail, however its scale for 1998 is still really impressive. What's less so is the amount of damage you'll take from falling. This is where a lot of frustration comes from, as the texture warping makes it unclear how far up you are. I'd wager around 30% of my retries was from taking too much damage from falling. Seems like a pretty critical design oversight to not make your jump jet equipped soldiers more resistant to hitting the ground. The game somewhat remedies this with a few gliding sections which are seemingly incapable of crashing, although you can't deploy them in any other standard mission. Supporting more often are now your teammates who give a bit more dynamism to the combat as you issue basic follow, attack, move and defend commands which are used sparingly. You can't target a specific enemy or structure for them to destroy. After clearing out the mines, the game abruptly sends in the attack, which obviously leads to...
Ambush! It's a trap! What the...
Oh yeah, they knew what they were doing. The planet, which I can't really be bothered to find the name of, is much more platform focused with bottomless pits and much harder enemies. This also is where corner sniping becomes crucial as you realise how useless most of your arsenal is. Aside from ammunition restrictions, the number and hit points of Hydrants get so high you'll have to choose between expending most of your ammunition or trying to avoid their attacks. It's not fun. Timed and proximity mines aren't all that helpful as they can't be thrown easily, forcing you to awkwardly position above Hydrants before deploying them, usually missing them entirely. After scavenging a wrecked cruiser, which is initially cool until you have to do the same mission again but on a timer, you committed to a couple defense missions which are blissfully simple. Outwars is filled with this strange pacing and set pieces that just go on far too long. You'd think that after a gauntlet of platforming, dying, and replaying the same mission without getting lost, taking on the Hydrant mothership would be the endgame. Nope. You're tasked to sneak in and infiltrate the ship, but apparently this is fine with salvos of grenades and rockets. The absence of enemy AI and cramped interiors do make the mines finally worthwhile, so that's something. After clearing house, capturing commanders, and nuking the place, you're finally sent to the last stop, another planet whose name I can't really be bothered to look up right now, to shut down a mass accelerator cannon from schwacking Earth. Here the game plays out the gambit of massive levels, big firefights, and glitchy platforming. The final stage is quite the gauntlet of traps, ranged enemies, and a boss fight that's made more annoying than hard as he floats out of range. After spamming every attack available, you blast off out of there, and Outwars is finito. Looking back, Outwars is by no means a classic with a gulf of level and mechanical quality, but despite my nitpicking, it's still a playable and enjoyable third-person shooter that still runs well, if you don't mind some jerry-rigging. The enemies are interesting and satisfying to fight, the explosive armaments look really cool, and the general scale of many levels really allows fast, vertical gameplay, which you rarely see, considering that it manages to be much more fun than a weighty bulk of much more recent third-person shooters. I'm hoping for a GOG re-release that will give it the much warranted attention. As of now, you can look for a physical copy or just play it via the collection chamber, though it's up to you. At a time where fast-paced shooters and dumb fun bug shooters like EDF have grown in popularity, if you're still wanting a rough, explosive challenge, Outwars succeeds more than most.